Hello, everyone. How are you? This is open mic time on 24 Authors in 12 Hours. I'm here with Natrel Mystic. She literally hit me up and she's like, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to not know who you are, random stranger who I just saw on Facebook, but I want to start talking to you and share my book with you. So your book is totally interesting. And I'm going to put the link in the chat over here. And let's talk about what inspired you to write your book.
Okay, so I've been sitting on it for a really long time because of the type of subject matter that it was. And then I started to do some research to see if there were any kind of maybe like erotica authors, what demographic they were from. And I realized that it's a very small niche market. And I thought, oh, okay, so maybe my book will work. And I'll be honest, I've had a lot of experiences trying to find the one, if we want to call it that. Some of it funny, some of it not so funny. And I thought, what a better way to kind of encourage people to not make the mistakes that I have made by actually writing my mistakes and experiences in a book, basically. So that was kind of the inspiration, to be honest with you. It was, I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about maybe I was the problem in some of my relationships. But it kind of took a long time for me to acknowledge that and accept it and then move on. And I don't have children. So I was like, what sort of legacy am I going to leave? Or what am I, how are people going to remember me? And I thought, what a better way than actually publishing a book? Because once it's out there, it's out there.
And the Body Count, The Walking Vagina, which is, I think, a salacious book. Like, people are going to read this and be like, I want to be involved or not. So what people may or may not know about me is I actually write underneath a pen name because I want to keep my brand separate. I do not hide that I write this at all, but I also write under Ash A. Milton, which is Amy Sue Hamilton, A.S. Hamilton, which it's an anagram, right? Like Harry Potter, right? And so my anagram then is Ash A. Milton, and I write this whole book where it's set in brothels and the lead character is a prostitute. And I think it's important as women that we feel comfortable addressing this. And also, Natrel Mystic, I'm guessing, I don't know your age, but it's probably closer to mine than to like a zennial or a younger person. And the world has changed. We grew up in a world where you expected that, like, it was always when you get married, not if you get married. And women today are growing up in this amazing new world, right? Where they can grow up and it's like, hey, you know what? You might not get married and that's okay. You might be single. The term spinsters, I don't know if you know the history of this, but it's fascinating. That was about women who could survive on their own, off their own living, spinning. And it was like amazing, right? And but then they took it and they made it into a bad word. And now we as women, 100 years of voting rights in America. I know that the domestic violence acts in the US to UK was only 1 year apart. Yeah. But I also know these traditional values, they transcend the entire globe. The fact that the patriarchy says you are going to get married, you're going to have kids. And it's really been about the past 50 years or so that women have changed. And I want to hear your story now, Natrel. I've been talking a lot. So share with us. And we got Winsome online and she's like, pow. And Winsome is right there in London. So I don't know how far apart you are if you want to. Where are you in the UK?
Okay, so I'm currently in Hertfordshire, which is just kind of one of the north counties just outside London. So about...
I went to Liverpool, by the way. So
okay, that's way up north compared to me. So Winsome introduced me to you.
Winsome wonderful. Winsome is like amazing. I love her.
Yes, she's also my publisher, believe it or not. So
wow. Okay. So
we've got a very, very close relationship. And it was through her really and her encouragement. Once I sort of gave her the outline of the book and that sort of thing, she was like, you've got to do it. You've got to publish it. Like, we haven't got anything out there that's like this. It's very candid. It's very sharp. It's very shocking. And it's probably the part of my life that I haven't had to share growing up. We didn't have social media. We didn't have mobile phones. So for me, it was a very secretive part of my life, what it is that I was doing. And so on the outside, I would probably look like, your average round the way girl, if you want to call it that, dressed very modestly, spoke modestly, had very strict parents. But what I was doing outside of the confines of my household, or what people could see, was basically just experimenting with many people, to be quite honest with you.
Which is not a bad thing. I mean, if you're having a good time, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons. One thing I love about the show Sex and the City, and you can make lots of arguments pro and con their show, but Samantha owned it. Like, Samantha had a good time. And I feel like the other characters weren't really having a good time, right? And they felt kind of bad about their actions. And, like what you're saying is very much like a Charlotte. Like, Charlotte always felt guilty. She was always looking for the one. Whereas Samantha was not looking for the one. Like, Samantha was like, I'm going to have a good time, right? Yeah. And we're kind of taught as girls in traditional societies, like, we can't have that good time. Like, it's not meant to be a good thing.
Yeah, exactly that. And over the last few years, again, since, COVID, since lockdown, people were in their homes. There was a lot of discussion online about how do we move forward with relationships, how are we going to meet people now? And all of these different topics kept on cropping up. But the crux of it all was, what's your body count? How many, and it was always, men pitted against women, and women can't do this and women can't do that. And I'm like, well, I've actually done a lot of the stuff you're saying that we can't do. So where do we go here from here? I can't take it away. It's not going to, maybe I've changed as a person. Maybe I've matured. Maybe I've grown in that respect. But maybe there was some underlying issues that I hadn't quite tapped into within myself. Maybe there was some low self-esteem. Maybe there was some low self-worth. Maybe there were things that I needed to look into, which is exactly what I did, And like I said, I was out there, having fun, if you would say that. Some of them were long-term relationships. There weren't any one-night stands. There were some that I actually wanted to get rid of after the first night, to be honest with you, but they keep on coming back, because I've got the cookies, as they say, in the jar. Things like that. But yeah, that's where it kind of, there was a level of anger that I was going through hearing men talk about women a certain way. And then it was just like, well, actually, no, I'm not going to sit on social media and try to justify my actions for free. If you want to know what it is and who I've done it with, you're going to have to buy the book. Do you know what I mean? I
love this. If you want to know this, buy the book. Like, I am like high value woman right there. You're like, buy the book.
Buy the book. Yeah. And that's been my motivation, is that hearing other women kind of belittle themselves or regret some of the stuff they've done, and, men kind of shouting at them a certain way, or kind of really tapping into them and not really taking into account some of the reasons why women do stuff, why they do stuff as well. It's acceptable for men to go out there and spread their seed and all of this kind of thing, but it's not okay for women to go out there and just have fun, live the life, do what she wants. It's her body. She's got autonomy over it. It's, we're consenting adults. And we moved forward, regardless of what room it was in, but, it happens, that sort of thing. And that's where I've kind of been with it. And now it's grown into, because it's an over 18s book, because of the context and the language that's used. But I have been speaking to university girls, for example, women, that sort of, late teens, early 20s region. And just saying to them that it's okay to have fun. It's okay to do what it is that you want to do. Nobody has the right to judge you. They will, and they will criticize, because that's just what humans do, unfortunately. But in the same instance, don't give too much of yourself away. Retain some of who you are, your essence. So there's been, that outpouring of my information, but on the back of it is a learning to try and help other women maybe avoid some of the pitfalls, some of the mistakes that I made. I went through, violence with some of them. I went through homelessness. I went through financial debt, if you want to call it that, just, all the things. And I'm not blaming men. I made these choices. I made these decisions, but they didn't help me be a better person. They contributed to my downfall, if you want to look at it like that. And that's kind of the message I want to put out there. It's okay doing all of this, but don't give all of yourself. Don't lend the money. Don't, do you know, there's so many things that I've learned that now it's kind of turned into a movement in that sense. Whereas, yeah, we've all got high body counts, if depending on what number you think is high. You know, some people may think 25 is high. Some people may think 125 is high. But who has the right to kind of put that number out there and say, that's the barrier, that's the benchmark, you know? And again, it's going back to that whole, you know, you should be virtuous and you should be a virgin until you get married. And then I'm like, but yeah, but suppose I did all of that and then it was rubbish, you know, and I didn't enjoy myself. Or do you know what I mean? There were so many things. And then you've got other men that are out there that are saying we want someone with a little bit of experience, a little bit of spice, you know, a lady in the streets, but a freak in the sheets. And I'm like, well, you know, someone taught me how to be a freak and now some other man's benefiting from that, you know, kind of thing. So that's it. There's so many sort of, you know, ups and downs with it, if that makes sense. But in a way that is turning into something really positive, and just not, so, you know, like I said, I'm not an advocate and championing women to go out there and sleep with as many people as possible. But in the same instance, don't beat yourself up. You know, don't criticize, don't overanalyze. Just know that, you know, why you've done it. And it's not a justification as long as you're happy with the decisions that you've made. And that's all that matters. You've not been forced or coerced or done something under duress. And those are the
love that message right there. It is like, as long as you're happy with the decisions you made, like that's the key to so much of life. And, you know, we're talking about goals and dreams and everything else. And I think that too often we're trying to do the goals and dreams that are somebody else's goals and dreams. And one of the things about becoming an adult is that ability to say, these are my goals and dreams.
Yeah.
I want to do a shameless plug for my book right now and just kind of tie it to your book and this kind of universe. It's called the Book Whore Universe. If anybody wants to check it out, while I sell merch for the childless cat ladies, book whores. I'd rather have, you know, I'm a book between the sheets than a man in the bed kind of stuff. No man required. Definitely, it's a super fun place to visit and live. And what I did with this book that I found was so interesting, it's not nearly as salacious as yours, but I think really putting the context around it, it is a speculative fiction written in 2055. And it is a postmodern America after what we're going through right now. And I took the Museum of the American Indian and I put it back to its original purpose. And that underneath that building, the building that had been there before was a brothel. And that brothel had been where all the, you know, senators and congressmen went, you know, and that's the thing is back in the day, men could do this, women couldn't. But now what they have done is a state sanctioned, state, you know, approved brothel. And this is once again where the high class are back there to play again. And we see this in society all the time. And I think just such an important thing to realize. And at the end of the book, there's this coming of age story for a young woman. And as she goes through it, the older woman, not that much older, you know, but mid-20s woman, she sees her and she sees these other young women who are struggling. And she's like, you know what? This has not worked for the past couple thousand years. Like trying to deny women their sexuality is an epic failure. And she's like, instead, we are going to learn all about how we can take care of self-pleasure and take care of ourselves. And it goes back to the thing throughout history is we have to recognize women have needs and requirements and desires. And also that women, unfortunately, bear the brunt of having to make sure that we are the ones who have to protect our reproductive health.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
we just met. We didn't get a chance to talk about your book at all. I do want you to be able to talk a little bit more about these issues within your book, because this is just like so powerful.
Yeah. So that's the first book kind of started. It's done chronologically in regards to age. So it starts off at quite a young age and unfortunately experiencing, I don't want how much, you know, wording or vocabulary we can use, but experiencing something that happened against my will with an older person when I was a
we normally just initialize that as SA. So, you know, SA is probably the right time for that.
That I thought it didn't bother me. You know, growing up, it was kind of brushed under the carpet. We get on with life. I don't think my parents knew how to handle it, to be quite honest with you, or whether they thought it needed to be handled. they were very loving, they were very kind. So in that respect, it kind of disappeared, or I thought it did it, but it was a very much an underlying issue. And then things rippled as I got older, again, SA with a family member. So the first time was with the babysitter, and then the second time was with a family member. And then later in life, there was a little bit more of it. And then the DV kicks in. And I realized that it seemed to be like a recurring pattern. And it's like, well, was I sort of instigating it? Was I, or, but what I realized, that one of my partners told me over the years, I literally have an invisible tattoo on my forehead. And a lot of men can actually see a level of vulnerability, but they then want to abuse that vulnerability, should we say. And that's why I then went into therapy later in life and that sort of thing. And a lot of stuff started to come out. And that's why the book had to be written, for not just for the world in that sense, but it's kind of my release, to be honest with you, to kind of go, I've had these peaks and troughs throughout my whole life, and what kind of triggered it off, or what started it, what was the catalyst. And it was these things that happened to me when I was young, to be quite honest with you, and things that I weren't in control of. And then I became really angry at men in general, or boys. And then that anger turned into, like I said, that selflessness. Let me just give myself to you. I wasn't valuable. Somebody else had already taken my value without my choice. So now that I'm kind of nothing, if that makes sense, I'll just keep on repeating the same pattern. And that's, so this first book, because there's going to be 3. So this first one starts, like I said, about 3 to 5 years old, and then goes up to my mid-20s, basically. So, but yeah, the teenage years, while you're at secondary school or at high school, the things that happened when you're, in preschool, or the things that used to happen in the library when you were 8 years old, all of these things started to come back to me. And it made me realize that this has to be documented. This is not just about me. This is potentially and probably happening to a lot more girls and women globally. And they're so scared to talk about it, let alone put it in a book. And it's that there's other people that resonate with it, that you can relate to, that have been through it. And then there's always that bright hope on the other side. So that's kind of the thread of the 3 books. So this first one, like I said, goes up to my 20s. I've left this book on a cliffhanger because I want people to be yearning for the next one, basically, which goes a lot deeper into how things can go wrong as you're learning about yourself as an adult. Again, going to prison. People look at me and there's so many layers and they don't see certain things anymore. But the books kind of unpeel me like a smelly onion, is what I say. And you realize there's a lot more to Natrel Mystic than just, a smiling, happy-go-lucky person. And like I said, it is about that bright hope. It's like, don't let these experiences that you maybe weren't in control of taint your adulthood, or give you, a negative perspective of men. There have been some really good men in my life, but the ones that stand out the most have gone in the book, quite frankly. Some of them I've spoken to since then as well, not about the book, but after 20 odd years, we've connected, whether it be on, whatever social media app, and tried to have a conversation about why things weren't great or what happened. And I realized I've grown a lot. I've come a long way. I'm very forgiving, but I won't forget type person. So yeah, the book itself is literally just exploring different levels of schmexuality throughout the teenage years and the early 20s.
Well, I think such an important thing. And I read a quote once that's always stuck to me. And I don't remember who wrote it, but I've used it since, and I've seen it in other places. And until we make SA, especially SA against a child, as repulsive as cannibalism, we are failing all of our girls, all of our women across the world. It should be that repulsive. I am going to try to cheer things up a minute because I need this. I created, as I said, Ashley Milton Universe, which is very different than books I've written in the past. And I have some merch from there. So if you're looking for wine tumblers of I'm a book whore, I prefer no man required, right? So you'd rather have a book in the bed. This is the universe I live in right now, and that is sort of like my alternate writing. I do want to just promote this show real quick. 24 Authors in 12 Hours is an author helping author event. We do accept donations. I'm going to put that link in here, and we also have some merch from 24 Authors in 12 Hours that I want to share. And what do we do, and why are we doing it? Is I'm an author. When COVID happened, I was sort of in a crisis because my book had been scheduled to come out in May of 2020, and then we delayed it, and then we delayed it, and then we gave up delaying it. And so I did a virtual book launch. And from that, I started doing this 24 Authors in 12 Hours. And I like the format because it's like a marathon. You do this all day. It is exhausting. And, it kind of caught on. And then what we talked a little bit about behind backstage, and I've talked about with a lot of other authors, is in the past 6 months or so, the world has changed. I don't know what happened. It's like suddenly all the grifters caught on that there's authors out there that they're trying to exploit. I am really not trying to exploit anybody. I want your time. Your time, Winsome said it earlier, your most precious resource. When I talk about The Project Manager, Life is a Project, which is one of my other books, which is available for a free Amazon download today. I want your time. And that's the cost to you to be on the show. And next month, we are going to be focusing the opposite of this discussion, which is going to be romance and romantasy and rom-coms and poetry. And that's the thing, we grow up off that stuff, right? And I do just totally respect authors who write in that genre. I want to feature authors in that genre. And what I want from you, I want 30 months of your time, and I want you to share my work with your network. I want to share your work with my network. I want us to come together. And what are we doing right now? We have open mic time. And what I was telling you is Natrel, like, just hit me up and said, I want to do it. I want to do it. When someone's telling me come on board. And so I said, let's do it. Let's feature your book because I've got the time. If you are interested in doing open mic, just put a shout out in the chat, because I've got between now and 5 o'clock dedicated to this time, talking to authors, featuring their books, because you write that book and the marketing is hard. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Natrel, what has been your challenges with getting the word out about this book, about this message, this very powerful message that you have?
In all honesty, at first I was embarrassed about talking about it because of the sensitivity of the book. And then a couple of people at work bought it. And then they started to pass it around to my colleagues, and they'd take me to the side and they'd let me know how powerful it was. They'd leave me a brilliant review. So I'm going to thank the person and the people who purchased the book at work, first of all, because that's helped me get the word out. So I think it's more about what a quick read it is. A lot of people have gone, oh, I've read it in a couple of hours, that sort of thing. Again, like you said, the spammers are there. I've got a very close network of sisters who were aware of my, book writing journey, so that it anticipated it coming out, celebrated me when it came out, share it on their socials, and going to book events. That's the other thing that I've got someone who does, like a library, personal bookshops and that sort of thing. So I have literally been going around and leaving copies in places that you probably wouldn't expect to find them. Do you know what I mean? It sounds really weird. I've sometimes, even in a public toilet at the train station, just leave it on the side. Do you know what I mean? Say, take me, kind of thing. I'm free, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's been an uphill struggle, but it's been a fun journey just getting it out there. The book's been out for a couple of years, and I'm actually now doing my online book launch next month, which is not far away. It's February the 22nd. It's a Sunday at 8 p.m. And it's sort of a meet the author. And I've called it Natrel Mystic Presents Body Count. So it's very much easy to find on Eventbrite. I'd love if you can join us, Amy, as well, even if it's not for the whole sort of couple of hours, but at least to just pop your head in. It would be lovely to see you. And
I would love to join, and definitely as a book whore, as somebody who wants to make it more open, that women feel comfortable talking about these topics, that women feel okay with admitting these things. And I love the next generation, and I love that being a Gen Xer. I'm in my 50s. We had that kind of like rage with Alanis Morissette, that rage with the Dixie Chicks and Earl. I mean, who knows what happened to Earl, right? I don't know. I ain't gonna admit that. But the next generation now, these women coming out, Paris Palamo with Labor, Lydia the Bard coming out with Boys Will Be Boys and Boys Will Be Wolves, like this is powerful stuff now because we're no longer in a phase where we're raging that a man broke our heart. Instead, we're saying men are an option. Women, we have our own finances. We can take care of ourselves now. If you want to be in my life, it's because you're adding value. And if you can't add value, I've got girlfriends to drink wine with. I've got cats. I've got dogs. I've got sisters. I've got an amazing life. Like you said, when someone's hitting you up saying like, come do this, right? Like we've got that now. That feeling of like not being complete was projected on us.
Yes.
And let's talk about that. You're going through this book, and how are you with these university students helping them to overcome that internalized misogyny that they hear that a prince needs to save them?
I went from changing the term because everyone was like, "Oh, are you single? Are you single?" And it kind of frustrated me. I'm whole, actually. I'm a whole person. I just happen to choose to not be in a relationship. So for me, it was, it's the vocabulary they use. It was the vocabulary I was using to describe myself. It's the vocabulary that they have been institutionalized to believe they should be using to describe themselves. And that's my first step with them. Let's change the way you said that about yourself. Let's change the way we talk about each other. And another thing, I've got it on a t-shirt. We should be completing each other, not competing with each other. So that's the kind of message that I've been pushing out to them, to be quite honest with you. Women tend to be more judgmental of each other than even men are judgmental of women. And I think that maybe it might be something in the UK. I don't know if it's like a global thing, but we don't help each other out. We don't really smile at each other. We don't make friends easy. We're very nervous of each other, in some situations and some sort of surroundings. It's like, let's take that barrier down. Let's actually embrace each other. Let's create a girlhood, a sisterhood, a womanhood. Like, boys have as they say, like a doorway into manhood. They have a rites of passage. Where is the rites of passage for girls and women? Why do we not have this as well? Why do we not embrace each other, at that sort of age? That's really where I'm at the moment, is that, let's look after each other. Let's empower each other. Let's really talk about what bothers us and find solutions. What can we do about it? So like I said, we're more independent. We're financially probably doing a little bit better than some men in some industries as well. And it's really about being proud of that. A lot of men say, oh, you're in your prime between 21 and 27 and all this kind of stuff. When I was 21, I was an airhead. I was out there with Tom, Dick, Harry and Peter and James and everybody else. You know what I mean? I really didn't find myself until I was in my late 30s, early 40s, like really know who it is that I am. And I'm okay with that. And there's going to be women that are going to be very similar to that. They're going to be women who want to, as they say, settle down. I don't want to settle down. I want to level up. It's like, so it's all these phrases and all these words that we're using. Let's try and change the mindset a little. Let's have a mind flow. Let's not be stagnant in our thinking. So yeah, I do love the newer generations. I love them, the 2 or 3 generations below me in regards to the way they're thinking. Girls playing football and rugby and doing what they call boy sports. I see some of the girls lifting at the gym. I'm like, yeah, go for it, sort of things. Guys looking at them, I can't lift that. Well, we can lift too. We can shoot hoops. We can kick ball. That's where I'm at. It's like it's not to disregard them and push them to one side, but it's to kind of let them know that we can survive without you to a certain extent. Reproductively, that's kind of sometimes all you're there for, to keep the human race going. But otherwise than that, let's champion each other and let's really celebrate each other.
So Natrel, I feel like this open mic time was here for a reason, because this is super interesting, super fascinating. I have been working and I wrote some articles about this, and I would love to pick this up with you because you hit on some really key things. and I've been working on another article on this, but the first one I wrote was called The Unwedding. And the fact that women are taught from the time they're born, the most important day of your life is your wedding day. And I'm like, F that. Like if that's the most important day of your life, you probably failed at life. Like that is a absolutely terrible, terrible mark. But that's what they taught women. And then you just brought up the coming of age, right? Quinceañeras, coming out parties, all these things were like, women were taught the only value they had was to attract a man. And our coming of age meant we could attract men. It was not about our graduations, our value, our connections. And I would love to work with you on something about this. I don't know what it's going to be. I want to collaborate with you though, because this power and the fact that you're sitting there in the UK and we have different demographics, but as sisters, we have this experience. And one thing I tell women all over the world, and I love the women and the diversity that they have and that we have. And some women will bring up like, well, women from the society, you know, they oppress other women. I'm like, well, first of all, that's wrong. Like, let's all establish that. But let's also establish, and I'm sorry if I'm alienating my male audience, I should be on my other channel, and Natrel and I will go over there sometime and kvetch some more. But the bottom line is, if you want to just be treated poorly, you could go anywhere as a woman. Like if you're an Asian woman, go to Asia. Like you could be, you know, Asian men will treat you badly. If you are, you know, an African-American woman, you can go to Africa and be treated poorly like by there. Like in Kenya, they actually created a village for women because it was women who had been SA'd so much. And this was in the 90s. And if they will take the boys in, and when a boy becomes 18, they have to leave the village. Like this is the thing, this is global. You can go anywhere and have men treat women poorly. There are very, very few countries, and they are only now just evolving. But when you look at global violence against women, it's global. And when we as sisters are only just now, and the internet and things like that, this is what's allowing us to connect. I just, like I said, I want to collaborate with you. I want to do some stuff like this with you. I feel like this was so meant to be. Winsome and I, like she talked about, like we were meant to connect. You and I were meant to connect. And, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, this would have been a very hard thing to do. But now we do have this global technology that's like, hey, guess what? Just randomly kind of join open mic and we're going to have this discussion. I have chills. I literally have chills right now. Next, I've taken up a lot of your time. I do appreciate you being here. If anybody out there wants to come join us, I want you to let me know. Natrel, I want to know, what else would you like people to know about your book, about your work, about what you're doing that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet?
Like I said, it's the first of 3. The book launch is February the 22nd at 8 p.m. GMT. I will be doing a reading from the book as well. I've got some people that will be doing some reading, and it's eventually going to be a stage play and potentially be a short mini series on screen. So that's kind of where I would love to take this. You know, it's not even a project, it's my baby. I've birthed this. Do you know what I mean? So now I'm going to nurture it. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. I'm at with it at the moment. You know, I'm again podcasting. I'm putting a lot of information out there about myself. I really want to come across as being approachable, someone people can relate to, some people, you know, they can resonate with, where our, not just our spirits align, but maybe some of our experience are very similar, and women don't know how to get out of a situation, or, you know, or escape something, you know, that sort of thing. So
or they might really be in a place where it's not possible. Even you know, people think the United States of America is free. There are certain places where it's not. One of my favorite presenters, and I can share her link later on, she's amazing. She was in an Amish home, and to escape her home, which is very, very patriarchal, they don't have access to technology and things, she had to escape like barefoot in the night. And the reason she had to be barefoot is because the boards squeaked in the house, and she was so afraid that it would set this off. And so, you know, you're like, okay, a woman in the 2020s is like literally escaping barefoot in the snow in the United States of America, let alone these countries in the Middle East, like what has happened back in Afghanistan and some of these other cultures where women don't have options. And I really kind of, like you said, reframing, I hate to say women don't have rights. Women have rights. Women are humans, full stop. What happens is people oppress those rights. And Man, this is so powerful. I am loving this discussion. I definitely want to come on the 22nd. Please invite me. Share anything you want in the links and comments. I'm going to take a break for maybe 15 minutes for anybody out there watching. Then I'm going to be back available. Just DM me or put a message in the comments, and I have open mic until 5. And if you are a romance author, romantasy officer, romantasy author, if you're rom-com, if you're poetry, February 14th, DM me, put a message in the comments. I'm looking forward to interviewing authors. Once again, this is authors helping authors. I'm here to promote my books, which then promotes your books, and build this amazing network. And I definitely feel like I was meant to meet you. Any last comments before we end the stream?
Just to say thank you so much, Amy. The energy has been absolutely electric. I love what it is that you're doing. I would definitely want to send you a copy of the book. Okay, signed, so you get a copy. Yeah, definitely. And I just want to say to Winsome, thank you so much as well for everything that you've done and who you are as an individual. And yeah, she's got an event coming up soon. So yeah, for those of you who are interested in writing, Winsome is the one to go to. She is such a powerful person in regards to how she delivers. But yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. It really has. I'm so glad that I was brave enough to go. No, I'm here. I'm coming. Definitely.
No, and I know it's evening there, and I do appreciate the time zone difference. I lived in that hemisphere for 15 years, and so that's why I always default to East Coast time, because I'm actually in Central time. But I understand how difficult the conversions are. But most people in Europe convert to East Coast time. Most people out in the west of the US convert to East Coast time. So I'm like, I'm going to use East Coast time, even though that's not even my time zone. And I really just appreciate it. I know you're probably tired. It's time for you to have a glass of wine. So go enjoy that glass of wine. If you can tune in later, and anybody who wants to tune in, starting at 5, we had Sheldon Stovall, followed by James Woosley, Sparkle Lindsay. I just love the name Sparkle. And then Stacy Webb, Jay Gauthier, whose name I am probably mispronouncing, but we have some great speakers. We have some great authors, and just people being able to share what they wrote, sharing their stories, their messages. And what I will say is everyone has a story we're sharing, and don't feel like you shouldn't write it. Like, go out and share that. And thank you so much. And I appreciate your bravery. Natrel Mystic, everybody, Body Count. Check out her book, check out her work, and her February 22nd book release. And I'm looking forward to working with you more.
Definitely. We'll catch up. Love you. Thank you so much indeed. Have a good evening. Great show.